And we're off.
How's it
Welcome
going?
to the newly, named Trapped Chatterbox podcast. Took a while to come up with it, but I got it. And today, I've got a stellar man, a stellar musician. Man I know, Adam McEvoy.
How's it
How are
going,
you, buddy?
folks? What's
All
the
right.
crack, man?
Took us a few minutes to try and get the sound. This goes back to last week when I was saying that I am a tech moron, like I've no clue. I spent the previous 20 minutes before we started going, okay, how do I get the sound? I was like, I know you're the guest here, but how do I get the sound? So hopefully it'll work. Adam's a musician. He's a guitarist, drummer, singer, songwriter. What else are you? And you also have your own mental health awareness site
do, yeah.
channel, on Facebook as well, called Irene, which we're going to get onto later on. But first of all, I want to start with the music because I've been listening back to a load of your stuff actually for the last sort of 2 days.
Oh, God.
And I know, but do you know what's amazing is I've listened to songs of yours before, but it's only when I gave it a real consistent run over the last sort of 2 days that I genuinely you start to go, my appreciation level has gone up quite a bit. And I think that only comes from really consistently listening to the songs and not just one here and one there. You go, he's really bloody good. And I do mean that. And I have a
thank
couple
you.
I know. I have a couple written down there. One of them was Set You Free. These are some of my favorites now. Set You Free was one. Little Love was another one. And
Yeah.
then you have the newer one, which I loved. We were talking about last night. Winner Takes All. I know you've sent me an edited version again, but that is a brilliant bloody song.
Thank you very much. Yeah. In regards to that one, like it's not out yet, but I plan a release date in about 6 weeks or so everyone gets to hear it then. But yeah, like the whole idea behind all the songs, if you listen to them, like you put your heart and soul into it. You know what I mean? You write about what you feel, and some of the songs are they're about heartache, they're about loss, they're about feeling that you've realized something's come to its end or something is going to develop or things like this. Like it's all the emotions get put in there. So
What was it for Winner Takes All? Because that one is it's different to Set You Free, right? It's different to
completely.
Little Love.
Yeah.
Winner Takes All, I listen to that one and I go, that's a party track. Like that's a proper, you can picture that in a back garden coming through the speakers and the party's getting a little rowdy. Winner Takes All comes on.
Yeah, so I mean, the idea behind it was, let's just say, like, anytime I was out when I was younger, like there was always sort of like bar fights and things like this going on. You saw people getting in scuffles, and usually had drink involved. Or there's been a lot of people in my life throughout the years that may not have liked me, and it may have been very apparent. And it was always a thing that I had to deal with when I went out. Like, I mean, yeah, you get people that like you get people that don't. But I've gotten in one or two scuffs over the years, and it's just kind of, it's the feeling that backs that, really. But it's also kind of, I tried to put across a sense of enjoyment in it as well. Because not that I enjoy getting in fights or anything like that, but it's a confidence booster. It's putting across, okay, I'm here, you just have to deal with it, like, and it's to put yourself out there like that, in the sense of, I suppose, like, I don't know, I used to go out a lot and think, oh God, what if something happens here? Like, and I'd never liked confrontation. I was never a big fan. But when I got riled up on it, or when I got into an argument with someone or something along the lines of this, there was a fire. There was always this fire inside. And I mean, I never really acted on it. I've never swung a dig at anyone or anything like that. But as I said, I've gotten in a couple of scuffs. But I never hit back.
Came out worse every time. Got absolutely
That's
just battered. The one thing I notice is you're one fella, like you're home a lot. Like I noticed this on your Instagram there the other day when you posted up with the loop pedal.
Yeah, I have no
Um,
life.
Like I noticed with the loop pedal there on your Instagram last week. What was it?
Trying to think back of my own tracks. I
Take
put
a look
that
at my
much out.
life and realise there's nothing left.
Oh yeah, Coolio, man. Yeah,
Coolio. Is that Coolio?
that's Coolio.
Is it Coolio? Yeah, it is. And I noticed that with the loop pedal and putting your own beat to it and your own lyrics and stuff, I started thinking with how many other songs that you actually do that with, that you've actually put down the drum track, that you've put down the guitars, the vocals, everything. How many of those tracks that you've done have you actually put together? All of it, just yourself.
Well, I mean, I've composed everything on all the tracks. I've had a couple of musicians come in on one or two of the tracks, and they just sat down and did a bit of session drumming or session bass, because I'm not an avid bass player. I've been playing drums about near 20 years, but even at that, this dude was a little better than me, and I was like, okay, can you do it? And he obliged, and it was nice. But I sit down and I write the basics of it. I sit down and I write the intricate parts. And again, like when the dude was doing it for me on one or two of the tracks, I was asking him, like, if there was a part I didn't like or anything like that, I'd be like, nah, it's meant to go like this, or it's meant to have this be here or whatever. So I was always involved in the arrangement of it. And then I always sat down afterwards and make sure I was able to play what he played, just so I didn't look like a muppet. But yeah, I sit down and I write the whole lot. Like I started off with guitar, and then about a year later I started learning drums, and it just kind of went from there, really. So, like, originally I wanted to be a drummer. I didn't want to be a musician. I just wanted to be a drummer. Not write songs, not do anything, just literally play drums, and I was happy out. And then when I got to about 14, 15, hip puberty and feelings became apparent. Songs just started flowing, really.
That's what happens. 14, 15, puberty, and songs started flowing.
Yeah, that's
so
when
what
the
do you
real
consider
heartache came
yourself?
out. Like,
What do you consider yourself first and foremost?
But no, I'm a musician. I can claim that now.
Of a particular instrument?
No, just a general musician.
Just in general?
Yeah, I'm a general musician. I'm an artist. I like to create. I like to figure out what other people are doing with their stuff. I like to listen to different genres as well. I don't like to be confined to one genre. That's why if you listen to the likes of Winner Takes All, it's a hard-hitting rock track. And then you have the likes of Set You Free, as you mentioned before, which is full-on pulled-back acoustic, that kind of thing. Again, I have a song out there, Alone, which is just like echoey acoustic stuff. And then I've written some raps. I've written dance songs that I haven't put out because they're not great. And things like this. But I always listen to all different genres and try to get my influence from everything, because, I mean, to confine yourself to one space can be very limiting. So I like to kind of go through the whole lot and take different parts and put them into my music. I have a lot of influences.
That's something actually I was thinking about as I was listening through your songs. I thought you can't pin you down to a genre. You can't say that he is a folk musician, or you can't say that he is I don't know, out and out rock, because your songs, it seems, from one to the other are so different. And that was actually, just as you were saying it there, one thing I was thinking, because I related to myself in that way in how I write. I always try, partly and mostly out of interest in trying to write a different genre of a story, whether it be a drama or a horror or a comedy. I always try and write something different, because I don't want to be trapped, which sounds really silly to say, in he writes one particular thing.
Yeah, you're right.
But partly it's because there's still some of me that goes, I'm trying to find the one thing that I'm really good at writing. I don't know, is that the same for you, or is it just a completely conscious thing that I don't want to be trapped to one genre of music?
It's more so, it's not that I'd love to be able to say, yeah, I am a grunge musician, a punk musician, an acoustic musician. I'd love to be able to say that I am one genre and be able to define it like that. But I can't limit myself to that, because the stuff that comes out doesn't fit that. And I tried to do that for a while. I tried to write a lot of acoustic music and just put across kind of an Ed Sheeran-y singer-songwriter vibe. And I found myself kind of getting stuck because there were certain things that I was writing that I couldn't put across. And I mean, even now, the stuff that I'm writing, like I write rock songs, I write a little bit of rap, a little bit of acoustic, a little bit like melodic stuff, singer-songwriter stuff. But even at that, I've got a lot of metal tracks there that I can't put out because it goes so far as to say that I fit into like alternative or rock or grunge or whatever, the lighter side of genres. But if I go and put out a metal track, I can't put that out under my name because all the people that would have listened to me so far and they're like, okay, I like the bit of edge here and I like the bit of acoustic stuff here. They won't like my metal tracks. Like they're fairly dark and heavy and so on. Like, yeah.
But what about the idea that your fans, right, the people who listen to you expect that they could get anything from you, right? They could get some sort of pop track, the singer-songwriter track, the hard rock track. Why is it so strange then to expect that if you put out a metal track that they wouldn't listen to you?
It's the same when I'm sure you've experienced going out on a date with someone and talking to someone about the kind of music that they like, and they say, oh, well, I like anything. Mm-hmm. So if you look at it in that sense, and I always laugh at this because I ask the question specifically because I'm a musician and I like a lot of genres. I like a lot of different types of music, and some of it is fairly manic and fairly like distorted and heavy and just, yeah, all out. Like a lot of people just hear it as noise. But I ask them the question and they say, yeah, I like anything. I'm like, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. And I fit into the anything that they're thinking of. I fit into that, okay, different kinds of music. Like you might have, they class a rock band. Some of them would class a rock band as like Oasis would be a rock band, which Oasis are rock, but they're also rock pop. And they fit into the pop genre as well. But it's a very light kind of thing. Then they think heavy, they think maybe Metallica or something like that. I go beyond that again, like, because the stuff I listen to is just, it's way out there sometimes. And I show them it and they go, okay, no, I wouldn't listen to that. That's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. But that's the idea behind it is like, I don't like to limit myself to anything like that. And I don't see it as limiting. I see it as it's a big, bad world of music and there's so many different things that goes on with it. And I want to experience it all. So that's kind of why I write the way I write.
But, do you know, as you're saying there, people who say, oh, I listen to any music. Initially, the first thing that goes through my head is, well, that's a cop-out, right? I listen to any music. Actually apply yourself for 5 seconds and think of 2 or 3 different artists or genres of music that you do listen to. Because that's my thing. If someone says to me, I like Joy Division, I like James Brown, and I like Peaches, all of which I've been listening to lately, right? Yeah. If they go to me, I like all 3 of those, and they are 3 very different genres of music. I go, brilliant. So that is somebody who is genuinely open to different types of music. And honestly, I might also go, well, that means they're probably open to sort of a wider, weirder array of conversation. I don't know how the 2 of those link, but they do in my own head. I can probably go off the beaten track a little bit in terms of a conversation. Instead of it just being, tell me what you do for work. Well, we can go off the beaten track here, and that person can probably come with me. But with the metal tracks then that you've written that you say, I've a load behind me that I can't do anything with, what do you do with them?
Well,
they just sit there gathering dust.
Kinda, yeah. I'm not doing anything with them at the moment, but I mean, I've got, regardless of metal tracks, I have about 30, 40, 50 ideas floating about in different places. I have a whole box inside full of lists of different songs that I have yet to record or yet to put out. And it's not that I won't ever do anything with them, but I don't write music to have music or put music out there. I write music for myself. and I
But
like to
do
share
you?
it with the world. I do, yeah. Which is probably why it's probably why a lot of my stuff hasn't been listened to yet, because it's it's for me. It's something that I like. I write songs that I want to hear, and I put them out. So like I'd sit down and I'd look for a track and I'd be like, I want to hear this in a song and I want to hear this in a song, and I'd have like very specific kind of ideas that I want to hear that day or in that moment. And if I can't find it, I'm like, okay, well I can't find it, so I'm gonna write it, and I
Exactly.
go about that.
Yeah. Um, I'm actually kind of of the opinion, especially now that this is the second episode of this podcast, right? And there's a lot of people who tell me how we should do it. And I go, but that wasn't the reason why I wanted to do a podcast. There was a load of reasons, but one of them was I wanted to sit and have a conversation with somebody that interested me.
Yeah,
Um, I wanted to be able to say what I wanted to say. You know, whether you agree
yeah,
or disagree, if the moment came up, I want to be able to say what I want to say. Because I feel like there's too much of that needing to watch everything that comes out of your mouth now, just in case. And then also with the time was the big one. That an hour is too long, 45 minutes is too long. You really want to keep it to half an hour. And fair enough, there will be people that say, I can listen to half an hour. The people say, I can't listen to an hour. My attitude was always twofold. One, if it's interesting enough, you're going to listen anyway.
yeah,
And two, if when I am nothing and nobody with this new podcast and I start out the way that I mean to carry on, then I'm going to pick up people, hopefully, whether it be in this podcast or something else. I'm going to pick up people at the very start that are used to the way that I do things, and that will carry on. Now, at the very start, I know that if you're not somebody who can listen to a podcast that's an hour long or an hour and a half, you're not going to be a listener. But if you are somebody who can do that, and you do like the content that's being put out there, then you'll come along. And that's kind of what I think about with your music. And even what I write as well is put it out now while nobody knows who you are or very few people know who you are, because at least the fan base that you built and build will be built on you putting out what you want and acquiring genuine fans, not people who got used to one style of Adam
yeah.
and now they don't like the new guy. But I always find in music particularly, you'll always hear about Kings of Leon. I love Kings of Leon. But
Great band.
great band. Youth and Young Manhood is one of my favourite albums, right? And
Yeah,
then as they carried on and they got older and their life started to change and the music started to change, they're sellouts. You know, they were better years and years ago. It's like, no, they're growing up. Their attitudes are changing. And this is the music that they're putting out. It's not that they've sold out as such, you know.
well, it's the same with Linkin Park. Linkin Park did what, 3, 4 albums of hard hitting, heavy new metal stuff. A lot
mm,
of screaming, a lot of heaviness and distortion and so on. And it's all very heartfelt music, but there was nothing upbeat in there, not really.
mm,
And then they brought out Minutes to Midnight, I think it was called. So that album that came out around the time of the Transformers movies, and that was completely different to their genre, like or to what they put out before. And there was an interview with, I think it was Chester and the lead singer, I can't remember his name. But there was an interview with
Mike,
them. Is it Mike?
Mike Shinoda and Chester Bennington, yeah.
Yeah. So there was an interview with them, and they said, well, you know, we've been doing this and on tour for 12 years, playing Hybrid Theory and Meteora and so on. And, you know, we've played the same songs over and over for millions of different people for 12 years straight. It comes to a point where we don't want to do that anymore. So that was their decision. It wasn't that they sold out or that. And a lot of people did think, oh, they just sold out. They went pop. They went to that kind of thing. But it wasn't the case. It was just where their heads were at then. Like when you're a teenager, you have a lot of angst. You have a lot of aggression, pent up aggression. And that's where a lot of their music came from when they started writing, because they were teenagers when they put it out. And then they're in their mid-20s then when they're recording Minutes to Midnight, or even they could be in their 30s. I'm not sure what age they are. But that was completely different, because you grow and you change as a person. Your views change as a person. Like when I was younger, I wrote a lot of songs that were very deep, very sad, but they were also kind of limited in a sense. And I look back on them now and I'm like, okay, I know what I was feeling then. I didn't really know how to express it. And that also comes through in my songs, that now my sound has changed from the time I was 15 or 18 or anything like that. I know how to express it a little better. I know what I want to say now. I know what I want to put out. And it kind of shows. It shows like when the person progresses and when they grow. And that can show throughout your music as well. So I wouldn't really say that it is selling out. A few artists have sold out, though, to be fair.
Let's stick with the idea that sure, a couple have sold out. I'm sure they have, but it's
Of
more so.
course they have.
Of course they have. You're going to offer me how much to do this album that I've really no interest in? Yeah, sure, I could do that. How much to do that new movie? Yeah, 100% I could do that. What do you think of the material? Love it. Love it. From page one, word one, you had me. The guitar stuff, you play guitar. Now, I predominantly, I would think of you as a guitarist, right?
Okay.
I would. I know I was doing drumming lessons with you.
Yeah.
For 2 or 3 of them before I got shut down for noise pollution, effectively. Yeah, that was it, right? Which I couldn't believe, but however, I think of you predominantly as a guitarist. You've got to travel with that though, haven't you? You were in Germany for what, 3 years? Was it 3 years?
Yeah, the guts of 3 years anyway, thereabouts. Yeah.
What were you doing over there with it? Like with the guitarist. I know you were over there for work and stuff, but from the musical point of view, I think that's so cool. If you're a guy with a guitar, you can go anywhere in the world and you're the coolest guy in the room.
Well, I appreciate that. I wouldn't really say I'd be the coolest guy, but you
I
can
was there, man.
You can keep the momentum going anyway, that's for sure. No,
You
well,
played in bars and things.
Yeah, I played. Well, I started off on the streets, man. And so I ended up over in Germany for work, as you said. But when I moved over there, I couldn't bring anything with me. And within the first month, I remember my first month's paycheck, I was told it's not going to be much. You know, you're working a back week on top of training and so on. So you're not really going to get paid much for it, but it will get better. And I was like, all right, fair enough. So with that first paycheck, I decided I was going to go buy a guitar. And so I went into the nearest music shop on the day that I got my paycheck. I picked up 3 €90 guitars and I played each of them. And I said, I'm going to get one of these. And so I picked out this lovely white one, which had a lovely deep sound to it. And I was like, this is deep, it's loud. It was the same as the rest of them, except this one just sounded different. This one was calling out to me. So I picked that up and I picked up a mic and I said, right, I'm going to go home and record. And then I was thinking, okay, since that paycheck wasn't that much, I need to go out and make a bit of money. So I decided I'd hit the streets and see what was going on and started playing on the streets. A couple of people heard me. They got me into bars. Like that's pretty much how it went then. And I met a couple of people through that, started writing with them. I was in a few studios over there. I met a lot of cool people. But the whole busking thing, like I was busking before I even moved there. Like I was busking in Ireland for about 2-3 years before I moved, just because I couldn't find a job. Like I literally, there was no work out there for me. I was working in a bar at one point, and that ended up changing hands. And then I was actually too young to work there because they upped the age to 21s, and I was only 18, so I lost my job. But I was going out, I was busking, and it was a great way to make money. It was a great way to make connections and meet people, and also get my music out there. Because while I was standing on the street corners, selling myself off for petty cash, I was handing music out and playing music. I was handing out my CD to people, and I was meeting people, and it was just a great way to express myself and gig without being able to get a gig in a sense, but it got me some gigs at the same time. And I mean, the people you meet over there, like, or the people you meet anywhere when you're busking, it's great. Like, you meet all sorts of people, all walks of life. And
Does the music that you were playing here? I don't know what you were playing. You're playing your own music over there, were you? Or you were playing covers of other songs?
both really. Like, if you want to test out a song, if you really want to test out a song, figure it out an acoustic version, go out on the street and play it and see what sort of reaction you get.
What do you get? Like, because look, I've not been to Germany. I'd love to go to Germany, but I'm not 100% what their music taste is like, or how open they are on the streets to you. But the stuff that you were trying here that you might have found was working, did it work in Germany on the streets as well?
It kind of had to work because, I mean, at that point, I had a list of 20 songs that I had down, and that was all I could play.
But did the people take to it? Like, was the reception? Was it an open reception? I suppose. Like, did they take it well? Did you go? Do you know what? That's really what I'm getting at. Is music is a universal thing.
So was I
You know
accepted?
what I mean? Well, yes. Yeah, accepted is one way of putting it, but I'm trying to. Did you notice? Did you say to yourself, "Look, I can't believe how similar it is here. You know, I can't believe that there's almost no separation between the crowds and the people in Ireland and the people in Germany with regards to taste in music or appreciation for music."
Well, I mean, even in Ireland, I kind of came across a lot of people, as well as a lot of people that did like it. I came across a lot of people that didn't. A lot of people asking me to move on or stop or so on. And in Germany, I mean, it was no different. People are people. It doesn't matter what language you speak. Music is universal, as you said. So the stuff that I was putting across could reach out to anyone, anyone, any age, any gender. It didn't matter, you know, because that's just the music that I was playing, I suppose. And when you're playing acoustic music, it tends to be fairly easy listening for a lot of people. You know, it kind of fits over a wide range instead of, like, you know, I could go out and try a metal track on the street. That would not go over well. I'd probably get moved on for, like, you know, obstruction and, I don't know, threatening language, I suppose. But, I mean, over there was no gigs and bars or anything for a good while because the town I was living in didn't do live music. So I hit the streets. I found myself down on my luck. I was a bit stuck for cash. I was like, I'm going to try it. And so I did. And I actually met quite a lot of cool people while I was doing it. So yeah, I would say it went over pretty well.
Yeah, that's that was one thing that I wondered, thinking about it the other day, is when you'd said to me that, you know, you'd played in Germany. I thought it's very interesting to me how music travels, you know, and you're the man on the street basically, so you can literally see how it travels from Dublin to this smaller town in Germany, and that was a really interesting idea to me. So with the guitar,
sorry, dude, you also
no,
get
go ahead.
like, I did get the people that came up to me. There was a woman, and this just, as soon as you asked me the question, it stuck out in my mind. There was a woman sent her granddaughter over to me, and now I wasn't really up on my German at the time, and I could understand a fair bit, but I couldn't really reply. So the grandmother comes over, sends the granddaughter over, who's no older than 7, and the granddaughter goes, "Excuse me, I have a question for you," in German. And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And she goes, "Why don't you have a real job like my mommy and daddy?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" And I looked at her grandmother, and her grandmother was like, "Well, yeah, why don't you?"
Nodding, yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I do have a real job. I'm doing this for fun." And that's really all it was for me, was just doing it for fun. Whether people wanted to listen or not, that was up to them. But I was there and I was putting it out there. It's better than sitting at home and not putting it out there. You know, so
What you tell her?
I told her I do have a real job, and I thought it was very rude, and I said it to the grandmother, and I was like, fair enough, if that's how you think. And they were like, yeah, I don't think you should be doing this. I was like, I appreciate the input. Thank you. And then I went on about my day playing guitar on the street.
Here's song 2 by Blur. Song 2 by Blur. Just make as much racket in the street as you can after that. It's very interesting, people's attitudes like that. I think that you're not going out and harming anybody unless you're absolutely shocking on guitar and your voice is like nails down a chalkboard. Then you might be harming people, but I don't believe you are. But people's attitudes are very interesting like that. And do you know what's funny is, as probably rude as that is, fair play to her for coming over and having the guts to ask. But
yeah, 7 years
you
old.
do. I found out after it. What are you going to do with your life, little one? Just get into the office now and stay there. There is times where you walk down the street and you go, I wonder what they do. Actually,
Yeah.
sometimes, I wonder what they do when they're not out here busking on the street. And that does cross my mind. I think it's very, very interesting. Now, is this their whole life now, is trying hard to get the music out there? Or is this something that they do because they enjoy it? And I give you one really cool one. I'll go back even further. I remember about 10 years ago, myself and my girlfriend at the time, we went to a bar in Galway City.
Yeah.
On Puckon, which is a bloody fantastic bar on Puckon, lively as hell. And at that stage, it was sweaty and crowded, and it was a real Irish bar. And in the middle of this was a group of fellas playing traditional music. There's one guy, I still remember, Robin was his name, really powerful, belting out Irish songs, really powerful, playing the banjo. And I sat down and I spoke to him afterwards, because he really grabbed me. Like, sat down and spoke to him afterwards. I asked him where he was from, and he says, I'm from the Netherlands. I said, no way.
Nice.
And he'd moved to Ireland however many years before that, but he still had that Dutch accent.
Yeah.
Still had it about him. But you barely noticed it when he played. And he was a lovely, lovely guy. And then I went to Kilkenny a year and a half ago with another group of friends, and we're walking down the street, and I couldn't even see him properly, but way out in the distance I heard this voice and I heard the banjo and I knew it was him. And as I'm walking down the street, I said to a friend of mine, Maria, I was like, that's him from 8 years before. This guy has gone from Galway playing in a bar, and here he is in Kilkenny on the street banging out these songs. And it was like an instant connection, and it was crazy. It actually was nuts. I was walking down the street in the days afterwards, like, I can't believe what this guy is doing. But that was just basically to say to the power actually of certain voices and seeing people that you'll pass for a moment, but the moment is strong enough that even 8 years later, you'll still recognize him. And I just waved hello. I waved hello. He had no memory of who I was, which was expected. It was like a real sweet moment. It was like, Robin, you don't remember me? It's like, I'm the guy. Anyway,
it was obviously more prominent to your mind than it was.
Yeah, it was. But you know what? I still think that was really cool. I'd forgotten all about that actually until I just said it to you. But you got to travel around. You're making music videos around Ireland. Now, that was in relation to a charity, wasn't it, at the time?
Well, I mean, the song was already written, and the idea was already there. And I remember I sat down. So the song was "Find My Way." "Find My Way" by Adam McEvoy. Look it up. But yeah, it was "Find My Way," and that song was written about. It was written about a lot of things, really, but it was written about kind of trying to find your way, to a point where you're happy, and where most people are happy is home. So it's "Find My Way Home" is the main hook on it, and So the song was already written and it was sitting there, and I had like 2 weeks off work, and I remember coming into the 2 weeks off work, and I rang a friend of mine, Ash, and I said, I know what I'm going to do this week. And she was like, what's that? I says, I'm going to record a music video. She goes, what do you mean you're going to record a music video? I said, yeah. I'm just going to do it. Like, I don't have money for a lot of different things and that. Like, I don't have money for a cameraman. I don't have money for a production crew or anything like that. But I want a music video for this song. So I want to go and record it. And I'm sitting there and I'm on the phone with her. It's about 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning could be. And I'm like, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? I was like, I know what I'll do. I'm going to take a trip across Ireland. So initially, it was just going right across the middle of Ireland. And I was like, that's what I'll do. And then I says, no, I'm going to go around Ireland. That's what I'm going to do. I'll go around Ireland. And she was like, yeah, what are you going to do? Like going around Ireland? I says, I'm going to record it. I says, but you know what, actually? I could probably do something better with this. And I rang her up the next day and I was like, I know what I'm going to do. She goes, what's that? I'm going to get in touch with one of the charities and see if I can promote them while I'm doing it. Because the song, it kind of promotes a mental health aspect of a place where you're safe is always your home. You're always safe around your family, which for a lot of people is true. And it's where you can be yourself. It's where you can find a lot of your answers is when you go back home. And I decided that kind of fell into the mental health side of things and the depression side of things because it's about finding yourself, really. And I rang up Samaritans and I said, listen, I've got a music video I want to do and I'd love to promote you throughout it because Samaritans were a great help to me when I was a teenager, and I rang them up once or twice when I went through a bit of a hard time, and they sat there and listened to me for hours, and I'm sure I was just rambling, but yeah, I found that it kind of hit home for me with that one as well. So I decided I'd do it for Samaritans. And what we did was we got all the sponsorship stuff for them. They were happy to do it. So they sent me out T-shirts and they sent me out little cards. And I did a trip around Ireland. And any of the money that I made while I was busking on the streets, I just donated it straight to them. And it was a great way to fundraise for them, but also get my music video out there. So it was kind of two birds, one stone. And I was like, yeah, I can really help people while I'm doing this. This is great. And that's why it ended up being involved with a charity.
Do you remember how much you raised off of that?
I raised €500.
Not bad.
So
that's
it was
good.
3 days. We started off in Dublin and we worked our way around. There was actually about 5 or 7 days beforehand where we were prepping everything. So 2 weeks off work was a great help with that. But yeah, we did a lot of prep on it. We got a map out. We set our track, decided which way we were going to go, worked out where we were going to stay for the 2 nights. And my friend Stephen Collins, he put me up the first night in Cork. And then the second night, a lovely woman put me up in an Airbnb, and she actually gave us the money back when we got there when she found out it was for a charity. So that was really nice. Like, that was really
I love it. That's it's never wasted on me. Good stuff like that out of people. It's never wasted on me. Yeah, fair play to her.
Like 16, we hit 16 counties in 3 days, and it was literally, we woke up at like 9 o'clock, got breakfast, hit the road, went out busking for like half an hour here, half an hour there, back in the car, hit the road to the next place, and we just kept doing it, and we kept track of everything along the way, which you'll see in the video. I marked out a lot of the places where I'd like stand in front of the sign, or I'd record parts coming in or out of town and things like that. And it was all a bit of crack. Like, we were wrecked by the end of it because we arrived home, we hit Cavan and went into Drogheda. But we had dinner in Cavan, went into Drogheda, did a bit in Drogheda, and then we got back, I'd say about 12 o'clock on the Sunday night, because we departed on a Friday and we came back on the Sunday, and we were absolutely shattered. And I was like, right, I'm going to go home and edit this tomorrow. And it pretty much, like, about 3 days later, we had a video from it, and it was cool.
It's worth it though, isn't it?
Definitely.
But the mental health side of things is important to you.
It is. It's very important, yeah.
Ireme is a site, a web page that you started up. What is it? Is it a year? 2 years
Yeah,
ago?
we're at it about a year now. It's called Irium, which is the Irish for to prevail.
Irium. I'll be honest with you, I thought it was French. I thought Ireme, but it's Irium. To prevail, and it's yourself and the person you do it with, the fellow you do it with,
Yes, Stephen Collins.
Stephen.
He's a buddy of mine that I met going back about 10 years now. Both of us did a training course for an airline, and we just really hit it off. Like, and then both of us spoke about the struggles that we had up to that point, and both of our mental health stories kind of they came together on it, and we've been best mates ever since, really. And he's always been someone I can pick up the phone and reach out to, and same with him to me. And we were sitting there one day, and we were talking about the whole lockdown and the pandemic and everything else, and how both of us were kind of finding it hard, not knowing what was going on, and not knowing when we'd be back to work and all of this. And we were both kind of helping each other through it. And it was like, well, dude, you can look at it this way. And, well, dude, how's today? What's getting you down today? And we'd be back and forth on it. And both of us had just said, maybe some other people could benefit from this. And because he was giving me tips and tricks that I'd try. Some of them would work, some of them wouldn't. I'd give him tips and tricks that I've tried. And again, the same thing. And we just really spoke from our personal experience of how we dealt with things and how we figured out things and kind of got through it. And like even now, like I'm sure everyone is going through a bit of anxiety now at the moment. And, we all get our down days and we get like touches of depression, or some people actually suffer with severe depression. And we have found different ways to kind of get us to the next day. And if we're struggling with it, we ring each other up and we go, dude, what do you think I should do with this? And we just kind of swap and change it. So we thought, you know what? Maybe some other people could benefit from this. And we decided we put up the page. And that's what we do. We share tips and tricks on how we manage to get through each day, each week, each month, any downtime, or any point where we're feeling very anxious or anything like that. And we put across how we dealt with it, really. And then we get like-minded stories from other people as well. And we share that across, because I mean, one of the first things that we touched off was postnatal depression. And obviously me and him can't have postnatal depression because we can't have kids physically ourselves because we're both male. And we touched off that with one or two people, and we shared their stories, and we put that out there. And that kind of hit home for a lot of people, and we got a few followers for that. And we touch off different things that like we may not have experienced. Like there was a girl shared a story with us, and she's bipolar, and we don't have bipolar disorder. So we were like, okay, let us know how you deal with things. What's going on with you? There was another girl had an eating disorder. She shared that with us. There was a guy that had been through hell and back with like illness and cancer and that. We did an interview with him. There was another guy who had panic attacks. We put that across. So it's not just from us. It's from everyone, and it's everyone's point of view, and it's a place where people can go and test out different things and methods that they haven't heard from. Because we found that when we went to the doctor, and we said, listen, we're going through this sort of stuff, both of us have found that in Ireland today, there's not a lot of help out there. You really have to dig deep, and you have to try find a way around it yourself. And yeah.
Can I just say here, actually, just before, because I remember we spoke briefly about that last year, I think it was. But yourself and Stephen, you're not trained counselors. You're not trained therapists. This is all based off of your own experience.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is just sharing the experiences of other people. So this is not you saying this works, definitely.
No.
And to do this.
Yeah, we make sure that we put across that it is something that we have tried and it worked for us, or we tried and it didn't work for us. But we tell people that it may work or it may not work. It's down to everyone's kind of personal feelings on what they're going through and so on. We can't tell you that there's a guaranteed way of doing things or a guaranteed way that will work and you will 100% feel better on this. But there are things out there that are widely tested and widely known, and we're sharing those ideas as well as little personal things that we found helped us. But no, we're not we're not counselors, and where we're not trained in that sort of stuff. We've just been through a lot of it ourselves. So
As much as that, it comes from a good place, and I think the idea of it is really good. It's people sharing their own
yeah,
stories that they know from personally. What I also think about is being the captains of the ship, basically. That for me, I would see that as there's a lot of pressure on
there
that though.
is.
I would like for me, I'd go. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of responsibility to take to start up a web page. That what it's doing is starting a conversation and putting your own input into it as well as other people's input. But it's a lot of pressure and responsibility to take on.
It can be, man. Like there are certain things, like we've had one or two people get in touch with us, and they've told us that they're going through a hard time, and they've told us that, they might be on the edge of things, and we are not trained to deal with that. We're not equipped to deal with that. And when it comes down to that, like, we're not saying don't get in touch with us. We might be able to give you a few things that when we were on a really down time, we found that it helped us, or reaching out. But we will always recommend that people go and seek professional help. And we'll always put that out there like that, because we're not equipped or trained to deal with that. And if something were to happen to a person because of something that I told them, and they took it as gospel, and they said, "Oh, it didn't work," and then they blame me for something that happened to them, like, that would honestly be heartbreaking. So we always try to put it across there that we're there to help. We're not there to fix. And if you want to get in touch with us and tell us about what's going on with you, we'll try help you as best as we can, as a person, as a one-to-one, that kind of thing. But if you need professional help and medical help, well, then you need to go seek it, and we'll always put that across as well.
And that was actually the point of view at which I was saying it's a lot of pressure
Yeah,
to take on. Is exactly that. If somebody comes to you after believing something that you've said and hearing what you've said, where they go, "Do you know what? He's a guy I can speak to," or "These are guys that I can speak to," and then they get to you, and it's a case of, "We can't provide you with the medical help that you need." That's huge. But one of the ways I imagine that you cope. What is yours? You struggle with anxiety, depression,
yeah. I mean,
specifically. What is it?
well, I've battled depression, and I've battled suicide, and suicidal thoughts, and yeah, anxiety was a big thing as well. And only when I did a bit of research into it, I realized that I actually suffered with anxiety through a lot of my life, and excuse me. Yeah, a lot of my life I dealt with it, and I didn't realize what it was until eventually I had a couple of panic attacks and things like that, and I was like, whoa, this is a whole new world of stuff. So I started getting into, like, looking into it and trying to figure myself out and figure out what was going on. And I realized that I suffered, and this was my medical diagnosis when I was younger. I suffered relationship issues, PTSD, severe depression, passive death wish, and anxiety as well.
Well,
Yeah. I've gotten through it, luckily, but at that point in time when I was dealing with things and I was going through a hard time, that's what the doctor said it seemed like, and that's what they put the diagnosis down to. They said it was a mix of a lot of things, but I mean, generally, when it comes down to things like that, you can put a label on a lot of things like that and say, okay, this person has all of these mental issues. But when you actually get into it, like, that's a label to try help you deal with it. So it's kind of like, if you have a cold, here's cold and flu tablets. If you have back pain, here's some tablets to help that back pain specifically. So it's a way that they can diagnose it, so that they can tell you specifically what you need to do to fix it. But mental health is so much broader than that, and it all comes down to something that someone needs to deal with, basically. It's kind of, it's self-exploration, and it's something that's blocking their mental growth, and that's kind of what you have to deal with then. So it's not like I have all of these illnesses. It came down to just, I was going through a hard time, and I couldn't really see a way out of it, and I was struggling to find that. And that's what brought on said anxiety, said depression, and other things there. So
Now that's the topic in itself is massive. Okay,
so
and
complex.
it's not something that we get through here. But one of the things that I think has to help, because I know it does for me, because I can struggle a lot with anxiety. Even now I can struggle a lot with anxiety, and I've had my periods of depression. I've had all that sort of that the really dark stuff as well. But what I find helps me a lot is creating,
Yeah.
is writing, is creating something where you can put that into, because it takes a weight off you in a way. For you, who has struggled with this for years, but also you've been playing a lot of music and you've been creating a lot, do they help? Does it help? Does one sort of, these feelings of depression and anxiety will fuel creativity? But likewise, when you're creating and you're not getting exactly what you want out of it, does it create depression and anxiety? Is it sort of like a vicious circle in a way?
Well, yeah and no. I mean, like, music has always been a crutch for me. Music has always been the thing that, whether I be listening to it or creating it, it's always been something that I could fall back on. So even when I was angry at the world and no one was in my corner and I wasn't speaking to anything, or sorry, wasn't speaking to anyone or anything along the lines of that, I could always dive into music and find something where a like-minded person has put this idea across and they felt my feelings. And it's kind of like when you talk to someone and they relate to you about any sort of mental issue or anything, that, like, it doesn't have to be a mental issue. It could just be you feel upset. Like, being upset is technically a mental health issue because you're upset. You're not feeling good. And it's all about feeling good. It's all about positivity. And when you find a song where someone is going through a hard time, someone's going through struggles, and they know how to phrase it because you can't find the words, it's just, it opens up a whole different world. And when it comes down to creating things, then you're then you're finding everything that's internal and you're figuring out a way to put that across and put it into words and put it into music and express those feelings. So when a person hears that song, they can hear the heartache, they can hear the angst, they can hear the happiness, they can hear the joy, they can hear the good times, they can hear the anger. All of this, you can express so many different things. And I mean, even if you play a note soft or you play it hard, it just comes across in so many different ways. And so music has definitely been one of those things that, if I'm really going through a hard time and I'm struggling, I'll sit down and I'll play a song or I'll start writing and just put it all to paper. And that was also one of the methods that I was taught when I was going through a hard time, when I was a teenager and I couldn't deal with it. Because at the time, what kind of sprung it all was a mate of mine had passed through suicide when I was about 17. And I didn't know how to deal with it, and I hadn't spoken to him in years. It wasn't like we were close, but it was just something that I couldn't really get over, and I didn't know how to deal with that because it's never something I'd experienced before. And so I dove into my music around that time, and I put it all down on paper. And therapists and everything will tell you, if you're going through a hard time, write it down, write everything down.
Yeah, I do
and
that
they
too.
said, my dad had said, yeah, so you write it down and then burn it. And I was like, I don't want to burn it. I want to turn it into something. These are my thoughts, my feelings. These mean something to me. So I want to put it out there. And yeah, it kind of just developed from there, really. Like I was writing songs before that and that, but writing things down, it really does. It just empties the mind because you're getting it out. It's physical then. It's not just something that's blocking all your mental capacity.
I was listening to the Blind Boy podcast, Rubber Bandits, and he was saying that himself. You sort of forget about it until you hear somebody else mention it. But he's talking about when you get to that state of flow, when you're writing or creating, that flow state where you actually forget almost about that outside world in a way. And it's only once he said it, I was like, I get that. I get that flow state where you're writing something, you're creating something, and all you can visualize is that thing that you're
Yeah,
making. And it's a real like break from the rest of what's
it
out there.
is.
Do you know
It's
that?
like
I
when
don't.
people say to you, like a lot of mental health advocates and a lot of people that study mental health issues and all of that, anyone that's talking about it will always tell you, you need to stop worrying about what's going on around you. Just be in the here and now. Live in the here and now. And when you're lost down that rabbit hole of whatever you're creating, and I've realized the point sometimes when I was writing things and I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, and I know I'm going to be going deep and heavy on this and nothing else will matter. Time won't even matter. And
Mm,
it does. It takes your focus off everything else and you focus on that one thing. Nothing else matters at that point. And it's a great
mhm.
feeling because it gives your mind a rest from thinking of everything else, you know. And now it's draining at the same time. You'll come away from that like you've just done 10 hours in the gym lifting the heaviest weights you can because you focus so much on it and you concentrate so much. But it's a great way to vent. It's a great way to get all of those feelings out and put that energy that you haven't burnt off in anything else, all that pent up energy, and just release it onto that track or into that sculpture or into that painting, whatever you're creating, into your writing like you do. You know, it's a great way to get lost in the world, and it's a great way to kind of figure things out.
Do you know, I always wonder to myself now, can I ever achieve this for the long term? When I write something, when you write something where you go, that was really good. I'm proud of this. Whether it's really good, I'm
Yeah.
proud of this. And the time that I dedicated, that flow state, that happy state, that, draining state, because you get that as well. I go, I love it so much.
It's a drug, man.
Can I
It's a
ever
drug.
get it is, but can I ever get to do this in the long term? Can this be my life? And that was one thing I always struggle with, which is kind of silly, really, is I come from a small enough town,
Yeah.
and why should I be the one that ever gets anywhere with it? But I can find that it can hold me back at times. Is that idea that I was never born in the middle of a hustle and bustle atmosphere that provided me with all the energy and the
Yeah.
possibilities. Coming from a small town, can I ever really make it in a job that's terrifically tough to get into and actually make a good career out of it? Do you ever get that? Do you ever wonder about being that small town guy? That's probably a real weird question to ask, but that's the point of doing this in the first
Yeah,
place.
no, I understand where you're coming from. Well, I mean, in a sense, it is about getting out there, and it is about I want the world to hear my music, you know, and I want to hear people's thoughts on it, whether they like it, dislike it, whatever. I want to hear it. I want to know what people think because it's something that I've made, and I want to put it out to the world to either enjoy or hate. It's up to you, and that's what I love about it is that people can look at things and it's down to their own perception, and it's down to what they come up with, you know, what they feel through things, what they see through things. And the perception between even me and you could see this as red, I could see this as blue. And it's all just it's mental the way we can see things so differently, and yet
Well, it's a bit more than that if you're seeing it as red and one is seeing it as
but
blue.
there are devices for that. But no, when it
Yeah.
comes down to being in a small town, I mean, granted, if you live in the middle of town, you live in the middle of Dublin, it can be a lot easier to get your music out there. But even at that, you've a lot more people to you've a lot more people to compete against because it is a bit of a competition.
Yeah.
And then even at that, if you're in Dublin, it's not really going to make a difference compared to London or in the middle of Berlin or over in the States, you know, because like we live in a place of what, 4.5, 5 million people. And they're the only people we're going to really reach if we reach out to every single person we know within Ireland. That's really all we're going to get, you know, because in the UK it's completely different. If we want to get onto UK stuff, we have to know someone from the UK. We have to get stuff out there to the UK and get it shared there. But that's when it comes down to your physical locality. But then you have the internet, And the internet is all one big massive city. It's one big massive world of information. And you think about that as like your busy street, right? One massive busy street full of a lot of people. If you're not going to express something or put something out there, or try get your information out there, it's not going to be there. You can sit there and you can people watch all day. You can watch everyone doing what they want to do, and you can sit in the background quietly, and you'll just be one of those people, like you see people walking into the shop. But then you want to be that big dude that's standing at the end rallying people. That's what you get from your creativity. That's what you're going to put out there. And you're holding up your big, massive song.
But that comes down to consistency. I think this is something now. I think this podcast in a way is almost a marker for me.
Yeah.
I hope this podcast is a marker in a way for me, because consistency is key. What I have found, and I had this conversation recently actually, what I found very important is the not giving up. Okay?
Yeah.
31. You're 28.
I'm 28, yep.
28. There's certain people that you'll look at and you'll go, they were highly successful in their early 20s. You can look at yourself and you go, I'm just getting started in my late 20s, in my early 30s. What I find is a big thing is to not give up on it.
Yeah, persistence is
Don't
key.
give up, because I've heard that persistence is, I would say, the most important thing. Is as long as you're making baby steps and you're actually consistently going somewhere, that's one thing. But if you're persistent in the fact that this is what I want, might not have happened for you yet, and this is something that I'm giving myself time to allow, is, Dan, you might not be anything at all. Probably nobody gives a fuck about what you're doing. But provided you're persevering, I can get to a place where I'm happy that I am creating and I'm going somewhere with it. Now, I don't need millions of people watching or listening, but just as long as I know, like, I wanted to be here creating, and I'm here,
Well, I mean, it all comes down to, persistence is key, and a lot of musicians want to make it, but I mean, for me, that would be a great thing to happen, but that's not why I do it. I don't do it to make it. I do it because I want to do it. It's something that makes me happy, and that's the main reason why I create. I get all sorts of mad feelings from it. It's amazing. I don't do it so that everyone will listen to my music or I'll make a big hit single. Yeah, I'd love that as a byproduct, and I'd love to be able to earn money from it. But at the end of the day, if I'm not earning money, or if I'm not going to make it, or like even if no one listens, like if one person listens at the end of the day, I'd be delighted. But even if it's just for me and no one listens, I'm still happy with it, because it's me. It's me on paper, it's me on track, it's me on wax.
I should go on a t-shirt. Right, look, we'll wrap it up. Actually, I know you've got lessons. You're giving lessons.
I
now
give
in a few
guitar
minutes.
lessons, yeah.
So, yes, he gives guitar lessons, which he's doing in a few minutes. So before we finish up, where can people find your music? Yeah, I am that guy now. Where do people find your music and Iriam? Where do they find it?
Here. So, you can find me on...
Yes.
In regards to music, you can find me on Amazon. You can find me on Spotify, Apple Music. You can find me on TikTok, actually. Some of my tracks are on TikTok. You can use them. And then Instagram. So all of that is Adam McEvoy. And then on Instagram and Facebook, Adam McEvoy Music are my pages where I share a lot of my stuff. You can find me on YouTube as well. And then with Iriam, I put it everywhere, man. I put it everywhere. But I mean, even if you want to come to my town, you'll find me there too. I'll just give it to you. I'll just give it to you. But
I don't care if nobody listens to me, but you will find me everywhere.
I mean, it has to be out there for people to hear it, man. But then Iriam is on Facebook and Instagram, so that's I_REIM and Iriam, and it's the Irish to prevail, because we all want to prevail. We all want to get through it, man. So
absolutely. And well worth viewing as well. Well
Thank
worth
you very much, sir.
Buddy, you've been a great pleasure. Really enjoyed that. And guys, thanks very much for listening in. This has been episode 2 of the Trap Chatterbox podcast, and I'll see you again on the next one.
Peace.